Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a really deep dive into what is, honestly, an absolute masterclass in food and beverage scaling. We're going to look at exactly how a regional food brand managed to conquer a completely different geographic market, totally defying local tastes to build an absolute powerhouse. We are unpacking the fascinating business case study of Sagar Ratna. So I really want you to think about this core paradox for a second. How exactly do you take a specific cuisine, in this case South Indian pure vegetarian fare, and make it a daily, reliable habit for a demographic in North India that traditionally leans heavily towards entirely different flavor profiles? It's a completely fascinating marketing challenge. You see, it's not just about selling food, it's about changing actual dining habits, building deep trust, and somehow scaling operations without losing the very soul of the brand. Okay, let's just dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the rise of the Dosa King, move into finding the perfect customer, then cover the 4Ps strategy, look at strengths and operational challenges, and finish up with the billion rupee future. Starting off with Section 1, the rise of the Dosa King, growing from just 40 seats to a massive franchise empire. So this whole story kicks off way back in 1986. Founder Jairam Banan opened up a super modest 40-seater outlet right in Defense Colony, Delhi. Now, this wasn't some overnight explosion fueled by aggressive, flashy advertising. Not at all. Instead, Banan built his reputation as the Dosa King of the North, brick by brick, dosa by dosa. He was just relentlessly focused on consistency. And over the 2000s, this solid foundation allowed Sagar Ratna to expand aggressively using a franchise model. Today, they boast an estimated 100 to 175 plus outlets, and we're not just talking across India, but with a real international presence too. Moving right along to Section 2, finding the perfect customer, or decoding their STP strategy. Look at how laser-focused they were with their market segmentation. Demographically, they completely zeroed in on middle and upper middle-class vegetarian families. Geographically, they anchor themselves in urban and semi-urban North India, with that Delhi NCR region acting as their absolute core. But the psychographics, the behavioral side of things, well, that's where the real magic happens. They specifically targeted multi-generational families who craved reliable, hygienic, and authentic sit-down meals. Listen, these aren't customers looking for some avant-garde experimental dining experience. They want the absolute comfort of tradition. They want a place where grandparents and grandchildren can enjoy a family outing with guaranteed 100% consistency. This, right here, is a masterclass in knowing exactly who you aren't trying to serve so you can perfectly serve the people you actually are. And that brings us perfectly to their positioning. Sagar Ratna defines itself through authentic, pure vegetarian South Indian dining with consistent quality and tradition. That 100% pure vegetarian tag, yeah, it's not just a menu choice. It's a massive differentiator and a profound trust builder in the Indian market. It firmly sets them apart from the broader casual dining players, and it allows them to stand shoulder to shoulder with, or completely differentiate from, pure South Indian specialists like Sarvana Bhavan, or quick service snack giants like Haldiram's and Bikanerwala. Basically, they completely own that comfortable, sit-down, pure veg family space. Which brings us to Section 3, the 4Ps strategy, where we'll analyze their marketing mix. We're going to look at the 4 classic ingredients of their operational recipe here: product, price, place, and promotion. And as you'll see, each one of these levers has been pulled very, very deliberately over the last few decades. Starting off with the product, just notice the incredible balancing act here. On one side of the scale, you've got their uncompromising core. We're talking authentic dosas, idlis, sambar, and traditional filter coffee, all made with fresh ingredients. This is what anchors the older patrons who come back again and again for nostalgia and tradition. But, to ensure the younger demographic doesn't just veto the family dinner, they've introduced modern adaptations. So you'll actually find cheese and chocolate dosas, alongside select North Indian and even Indo-Chinese vegetarian items. It's brilliant. They'd evolved just enough to capture the youth without alienating the core base that made them famous in the first place. Now, when it comes to price and overall investment, Sagar Ratna is distinctly value-oriented. Their menu pricing makes them an everyday, regular family visit rather than some rare special occasion splurge. From a business perspective, setting up a franchise historically ranged up to 1 to 1.5 crore rupees, or sometimes more depending on if it was a food court or a full fine dine format. This really highlights a highly scalable business model that perfectly balances high footfall volume with a very high perceived quality of dining. Let's talk about place and see how this builds their distribution footprint. Their locations are incredibly strategic. We're talking high-traffic urban areas, malls, and densely populated middle-class neighborhoods. They are also expanding heavily into Tier 2 cities across places like Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Uttarakhand, where the demand for really quality vegetarian food is absolutely surging. What's super notable here is their recent strategy leans heavily toward a higher ratio of company-owned stores. And why is that? Because as you scale up, maintaining absolute, strict control over the brand experience in those key high streets and airports becomes totally non-negotiable. And finally, promotion. Now, historically, Sagar Ratna didn't really need to shout. They relied almost entirely on organic word of mouth and the incredibly compelling story of Jairam Banan's humble beginnings. But times change, right? Today, they execute highly targeted festival promotions, whipping up special menus for Navaratri and Diwali. They've also undergone a big brand and logo refresh specifically to appeal to younger audiences, and they are actively utilizing influencers, food bloggers, and digital engagement to stay culturally relevant and highly visible in what is a very crowded market.
All right, shifting gears to Section 4, Strengths and Operational Challenges, the sizzle and the burn. So looking at their strengths, they obviously have a proven ability to introduce and sustain across regional cuisine. They have massive operational consistency and the sheer power of that pure vegetarian trust we talked about. But honestly, the absolutely crucial point is this. Sagar Ratna's biggest asset isn't actually the food itself. It's the multi-generational emotional equity they've built over the years. Look, when a brand becomes the absolute default choice for 3 generations of a family all sitting at the same table, you have built an incredibly wide moat against your competitors. But it's not all smooth sailing. The operational friction they face is a genuine high-stakes threat. Authentic South Indian cooking is incredibly labor and process-intensive. It requires fresh, on-the-spot cooking, which directly clashes with a lightning-fast speed expected in today's era of quick-service restaurants and those super aggressive delivery apps. Furthermore, as they grow, enforcing strict quality control across such a vast franchise network is notoriously difficult. Their core challenge is basically threading a very tight needle. How exactly do you modernize your ambiance and adapt to delivery-focused trends without diluting the very heritage that made you successful in the first place? And that leads us to our final section, number 5, the billion rupee future. What is next for the brand? Listen to this. The overarching JRB Group has some incredibly ambitious targets. They are actively aiming for group-level revenues in the 900 to 1,000 crore rupee range over the coming years. Just let that scale sink in for a moment. That's huge. To hit this massive milestone, their strategy involves a significant increase in footprint, potentially even doubling their outlet count. They're looking far beyond their traditional territories and even testing the waters in European markets, aiming to take their specific brand of authentic Indian vegetarianism truly global. But here's the really brilliant part of their future strategy. Despite these massive global ambitions, they are fundamentally doubling down on their roots. They're focusing heavily on opening company-owned units in high-visibility locations to ensure direct, uncompromised operational control. They aren't pivoting to some trendy new fusion concept. Nope. The emphasis remains fiercely on the core, pure veg, authentic experience that built the brand from day one. Which leaves us with this final, crucial thought to ponder. As our consumer habits shift more and more towards screens and instant delivery apps, can a legacy brand that is so deeply rooted in the traditional sit-down family dining experience actually maintain its soul? Sagar Ratna has already proven it can conquer entirely new geographies and bridge huge generational divides, but navigating the digital delivery era while keeping its heritage intact, that's going to be its ultimate test. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. I really hope this breakdown provided a clear structural view into the actual mechanics of scaling a regional food empire.